What can I do for you? I know everything that is worth knowing. Everything that is relevant to my circus and my profession as a lion tamer. I'm sorry, my friend, but I don't have any information about the murders. My job is to tame the most dangerous and wild animals in the world and put on the greatest show on earth.
Of course, Detective Martini. I'd be happy to help. What would you like to know about the murder? Wow, that's quite a broad request. Where should I start? Do you want me to give you some background information on the victims or what happened on the night of the murders? The backgrounds of all the victims or just Maria's? Oh, okay, well, let me see if I can remember everything correctly. So there were 3 people who were murdered in Vaudeville recently. Mr. and Mrs. Potter and Maria Jansen. Mr. and Mrs. Potter were a wealthy couple who often socialized with other members of high society in Vaudeville, including myself and some others involved in this case. I heard that they were well respected in the community and had many friends. Maria Jansen was also a close acquaintance of mine, actually. Maria was a lovely person, Detective Martini. She was kind-hearted and always had a smile on her face. I can't believe she's gone. I used to hang out with her and the Potters quite a bit before they were killed. She was an entrepreneur like me, but in a different field. She was interested in art and design and had some really innovative ideas. I was really looking forward to seeing what she would do next. I'm sorry, but I don't have that information, Detective. I wasn't there on the night of the murders. Do you have any leads or suspects in mind? Well, to be honest, I'm not sure who could have done it. It's all a mystery to me. What have you found out so far? I'm sorry, Detective Martini, but I don't have any information on the specifics of the murders. All I know is that well, Detective Martini, I'm not sure about the details of all the murders. But I do know that they were all quite gruesome and unexpected. Do you have any leads on who might be responsible for them? Maria, I'm not sure. It's been a while. Why do you ask? Oh, I didn't realize there were other victims. Who were they?
Well, my dear sir, I can tell you that I am not exactly privy to the inner workings of the police investigation. However, I must say that it is certainly a most intriguing case. The perpetrator seems to be quite elusive, wouldn't you agree? But fear not, I have no doubt that our Chief Gretzky and his team will uncover the truth in due time. Ah, yes, I was acquainted with one of the victims, Nicola Grossman. Fine fellow, that one. Shame what happened to him and the others. But you know what they say, my good man, in the darkest hour, the brightest light shines. And I intend to be that light for Nicola's legacy and for my own businesses as well. It has been some time since I last saw my dear friend, but rest assured that his memory lives on in my heart. As they say, absence makes the heart grow fonder. Oh, my friend, you must not be aware of the intricacies of high society. Nicola and I were introduced at a soiree hosted by the Countess of Ravenswood. I assure you, rubbing elbows with the upper crust is all in a day's work for someone like myself. But alas, not everyone has that privilege, do they? My dear sir, I could tell you many things about my dear friend, but I fear that your ears may not be able to handle the weight of such knowledge. Suffice to say, he was a man of great ambition and talent, much like myself. My friend, Nicola, was a man of many talents. He had a keen mind for business and an eye for detail that was unmatched. He was also quite the bon vivant, always ready with a witty remark or a clever turn of phrase. But I suppose you wouldn't know anything about that, would you? My dear sir, Nicola was a man of many talents and interests. He was an entrepreneur like myself, always on the lookout for the next big thing. He had a nose for business, as they say. My dear sir, Nicola was a man of many talents and interests. He had a keen eye for business.
Oh, hi there. Well, I don't know much about the murders, but it's such a tragedy that 3 people have been killed in Vaudeville recently. It's a beautiful city, full of art and culture, and it's so sad that something like this could happen here. But let's not dwell on the negative, okay? What brings you to Vaudeville? Sure, I'd love to. My name is Ingrid, and I'm a ballerina. I moved to Vaudeville from Northern Europe to pursue my dreams, and it's been an incredible journey so far. I love dancing, making new friends, and exploring this amazing city. How about you? Can you share a little? Well, I didn't personally know any of the victims, but one of them was my good friend Haley Greenwood. She was a dancer like me, and we would often practice together. It's so tragic that she's gone, and I miss her every day. But I'm determined to carry on her legacy and Yes, I did know one of the victims, Haley Greenwood. She was a dear friend of mine and a fellow dancer. We met in dance class and hit it off right away. She was so talented and passionate about her craft, and she had a heart of gold. It's just heartbreaking that she's gone now. But I'm determined to keep her memory alive and honor her by pursuing my own dreams as a ballerina. Haley was an amazing person. She had a contagious energy and a zest for life that was truly inspiring. She was always pushing herself to be the best she could be, both in her dancing and in her personal life. And she had this Haley was a wonderful person. She was always so positive and supportive, not just to me, but to everyone around her. She had a contagious energy that could light up any room she walked into. And as a dancer, she was truly gifted. I remember watching her perform and being in awe. The last time I saw Haley was a few days before she died. We were rehearsing for a dance performance together, and she was so excited about it. She had this energy and passion that was infectious, you know? It's hard to believe that she's not here anymore. But I'm grateful for the time we had together, and I'm going to make sure that her spirit lives on through my dancing. Enemies? No, I don't think so. Everyone loved Haley. She was such a kind and generous person, always willing to lend a helping hand or offer words of encouragement. I can't imagine anyone wanting to harm her. But Haley was such a kind and loving person, I can't imagine her having any enemies. As for a boyfriend, she wasn't seeing anyone at the moment, but she was always open to meeting new people and making new connections. She had such a positive outlook on life and was always looking for ways. I honestly don't know if Haley had any enemies. She was one of those people who got along with everyone, you know? She had a really positive energy and always saw the good in others. As for your other question, I'm not sure if she was seeing anyone. We didn't really talk about our personal. I knew Haley for about a year before she died. We met in dance class and became fast friends. She was such a bright light in my life, you know? Always positive and supportive, even when things were tough. I miss her. I'm so glad you asked. I met Haley in a ballet class at the Vaudeville Dance Academy. We were both new to the city and looking for a way to pursue our love of dance. It was fate that brought us together, and we became fast friends. We spent countless hours practicing our routines. You seem like a really interesting person, Detective Martini. I love meeting new people and learning about their stories. What's your favorite thing to do in Vaudeville? Maybe we can go explore together sometime. Well, that's all right. I understand that we all have our own preferences and ways of enjoying things. But if there's ever anything that I can do to Haley lived in an apartment complex not too far from our dance studio. She loved her place and was always inviting us over for movie nights or game night. Oh, I see. Well, to answer your questions, Haley lived in an apartment complex on Main Street. As for our dance class, it's at a studio called Dance Works. It's a great place with some of. Oh, I see. Well, to answer your question, Haley lived in an apartment complex near the city center. As for our dance That's so cool. I love dancing too. It's such a beautiful art form, and it allows us to express ourselves in ways that words can't always capture. Have you ever tried dancing before, Detective Martini? I'd love to show you some moves some. Oh, Dance Works. It's a great studio, and I love going there to practice my ballet. It's just a short walk from here, actually. Do you want me to show you around? I'm sure we can find some cool spots to. I'm glad to hear that. Well, Dance Works is just a couple of blocks away from here. It's a great dance studio with amazing.
Well, the murders of Nicola Grossman, Maria Jansen, and Haley Greenwood are quite different in terms of their modus operandi. However, I can't help but feel that they are somehow connected. The wounds on Nicola Grossman suggest a sharp weapon was used, while Maria Jansen's injuries look like they were caused by an animal attack. And Haley Greenwood's head injuries indicate a blunt object was used, possibly a stiletto shoe. It's all very puzzling and disturbing. Nicola's body was found outside Pascal's grocery shop, and it seems he was killed there. As for the other two victims, their bodies were found in separate locations. Maria was found outside her apartment in central Vaudeville, and Haley was found in an alley behind the club she worked at. It's a shame that these Nicola Grossman was killed outside Pascal's grocery shop on April 23 between 9 p.m. and 12 p.m. Maria Jansen was found outside her apartment in central Vaudeville, and the exact time of her death is hard to. It's hard to say where they were killed without further investigation, but I can tell you that based on the time of death and the condition of the bodies, they likely died within a few hours of being found. As for Haley Greenwood, she worked at a club called the Velvet Room. It's a popular spot in Vaudeville for dancers and performers. I'm sorry, Detective. I can't provide you with a list of suspects at the moment. However, I can assure you that we are doing everything. I'm sorry, Detective. I don't have information about suspects or witnesses at the moment. But I can assure you that we will do everything in our power to find the culprit and bring them to justice. These cases are particularly gruesome, and my heart goes out to the victims and their families. As a coroner, I've seen my fair share of death, but these cases are especially troubling. It's always heartbreaking to see such young lives cut short. Haley Greenwood, for instance, had a lot of potential as a dancer. But her injuries were severe, and she didn't stand a chance. Maria Jansen's case is also quite tragic. The bite marks on her body suggest that she was attacked by an animal with great force. And Nicola Grossman's wounds. It's hard to tell you more about the victims without getting too emotional. But as a medical professional, I can tell you that their injuries were severe and caused a great deal of trauma to their bodies.
Detective Martini, you mentioned some news. Does it have anything to do with the recent murders in Vaudeville? I'm curious to know if there are any new leads or suspects. Well, I have my suspicions, but nothing concrete. Who knows, maybe you have some information that could help us solve this case. I don't have any specific theories, but I'm always open to hearing what others think. Do you have any hunches or ideas about who might be behind these gruesome killings? Sure, Detective. There have been 3 brutal murders in the past few weeks. Maria Jansen, Nicola Grossman, and Haley Greenwood were all found dead in different parts of the city. We're still investigating and trying to find a connection between them. What do you think about these cases? Interesting. So what brings you here today, detective? Have you... Do you have any leads or... Interesting. If you don't mind me asking, Detective Martini, what brings you to my office today? Is there something new you discovered that could help us catch the killer? Of course, detective. Which murder would you like to start with? We have... you're curious about the murder of poor Ms. Jansen. She was found outside her apartment in central Vaudeville, covered in blood. It was a terrible sight. We're still trying to piece together what happened to her and who could have committed such a heinous act. We haven't been able to find a witness yet, but we're questioning everyone in the area and looking for surveillance footage. As for suspects, we don't have anyone specific in mind at the moment. But we're keeping an eye on anyone who has a motive or could have been in the area at the time of the crime. Do you have anyone in mind, Detective Martini? Oh, I see. You're trying to get me to reveal my theories. Sorry. Oh, really? Who do you think could be responsible for this crime, detective? Do you have any leads that could point us in the right direction? Interesting. You seem to have a lot of confidence in your investigative abilities, but unfortunately, I don't have a solid suspect at the moment. However, our investigation is still ongoing and we hope to gather more information soon. Haley Greenwood was a 19-year-old dancer who worked at a club in Vaudeville. Her body was found in an alley behind the club she worked at. It's a tragic case, and we're doing everything in our power to find out what happened to her. Do you have any theories about this case, Detective Martini? Well, I'm glad you asked, Detective. We've been questioning the staff and patrons of the club, but so far, no one has come forward with anything useful. As for cameras, there were a few in the area, but they were all malfunctioning at the time of the murder. It's a frustrating Yes, there were a few patrons at the club that night who are considered persons of interest in our investigation. We're questioning them and looking into their backgrounds to see if they have a motive or connection to it. Interesting. So you think the cameras at the club could provide some valuable information? Well, from what I know, there were a few witnesses who saw her leaving the club late at night. But so far, none of them have been able to provide us with any substantial leads. And as for the cameras at the club, well, from our initial investigation, it seems that there were no witnesses to the crime. Well, detective, I'm not sure if there were any witnesses at the club, but I'll have my team look into it. Do you have any leads or information that could help us with this investigation? I haven't personally gone to the club myself. The club is run by a man named Monsieur Saxabar. He's been in the entertainment business for quite some time now, and he's known for his extravagant shows and parties. But I don't trust him or his shows. I think they're immoral and corrupting the youth of Vaudeville. What do you think, detective? I don't think that his intentions... Interesting, detective. Could you please elaborate on that? What specifically makes you think that? Alright, if you don't have anything else to share.
Greetings, stranger. I hope the Blackwoods haven't frightened you too much. It's easy to get lost in here, but don't worry, I'm here to help. What brings you to... I'm sorry, I don't know much about the murders, but I have heard whispers from the creatures of the Blackwoods. Detective, the Blackwoods has been my home for many years now. Though I may have heard the echoes of terror that have shaken Vaudeville, my knowledge is limited to the creatures and plans. I'm sorry, Detective Martini, I do not have any information about the murders. As a protector of the Blackwoods, my focus is on preserving the natural beauty. I'm afraid I don't know any of the victims. The Blackwoods have been quiet about the murders, but they have expressed their concern for the safety of Vaudeville. It's important to remember that the creatures of the Blackwoods... I am sorry, Detective Martini, but I didn't know any of the victims. The creatures of the Blackwoods are many and varied. Some are small and shy, like the rabbits and squirrels that dart through the underbrush. Others are larger and more majestic. The creatures of the Blackwoods are my friends, Detective Martini. They speak to me in their own way, through the... I have lived in these woods for as long as I can remember. It's hard to tell time here, you know? But the Blackwoods have always been my home. They speak to me in ways that are difficult to explain, through the rustling of the leaves. I am but a humble protector of the Blackwoods. I have lived here for as long as I can remember, and I have always felt a deep connection to this forest. The creatures of the Blackwoods often speak to me, sharing their wisdom and secrets with me. But please forgive me if my words are not always clear or easy to understand. I suffer from some form of mental impairment that makes it difficult for me to express myself clearly at times.